Guys, I really think Dante is about to walk straight into the darkest nightmare of his life. And the scary part is that he may not even realize how late he already is. Because if we are reading these clues correctly, Cullum is not acting like a man blinded by rage anymore. No, he feels colder now, smarter, way more dangerous. And if you ask me, that changes everything. What makes this whole situation feel so disturbing is that Cullum would not be screaming threats in public or making reckless moves. He would be hunting quietly, watching, waiting, almost like he is studying Rocco before striking. And honestly, that is the kind of villain that scares me the most on General Hospital. The calm ones. The ones who already made peace with doing something terrible. At first, nobody around Rocco would notice the danger building around him. That is the twist that gives me chills. We would just see little things that seem off. A strange car outside the school. Somebody standing too long near the docks. Random silent calls in the middle of the night. The kind of stuff you try to brush off because admitting the truth feels too terrifying. But guys, deep down, I think Rocco would already know something is wrong. The problem is, Rocco would also be carrying this massive guilt over the shooting. And that guilt, it would trap him. Because instead of running to Dante for help, he would probably keep everything bottled up inside. He would be terrified Dante might look at him differently if the truth came out. We all know Rocco never meant for any of this to happen, but guilt does not care about logic. It eats people alive from the inside. And here is the heartbreaking twist. Dante may already know more than Rocco realizes. I can totally picture Dante starting to connect the dots after accidentally seeing Cullum meeting with some shady weapons dealer. Maybe Dante overhears a few horrifying words like the kid and blood debt. That alone would set off every alarm in his head. Because Dante is not just a father. He is a cop. His instincts would kick in immediately. But instead of telling PCPD everything right away, I think Dante would go rogue for a little while. And honestly, I get it. If you ask me, Dante would be scared that pushing too hard too fast could make Cullum disappear or snap earlier than expected. So Dante would quietly start investigating on his own, watching Cullum from a distance while trying not to alert him. That is when the real horror would finally hit him. Cullum already knows Rocco pulled the trigger. Not suspects. Knows. And once Dante realizes that, I think the panic would completely consume him because this would no longer be about solving a case. This would become about saving his son before somebody completely unstable decides revenge matters more than humanity. The scariest part is how Cullum may justify it in his own mind. He would probably convince himself that Rocco ruined his entire life, took everything from him, destroyed his future. Guys, people become terrifying when they stop seeing revenge as revenge and start calling it justice. That is exactly when lines disappear. So Dante would likely make the desperate decision to get Rocco out of Port Charles secretly. Fast. Quiet. No attention. But our problem as viewers is obvious here. Rocco still would not fully understand how deadly this situation really is. He would still be thinking emotionally instead of strategically. That is why I think the father-son confrontation would explode emotionally. Rocco would finally confess. He was the one who shot Cullum. And wow, just imagine Dante hearing those words directly from his son. You can already feel the silence in that room. I honestly think part of Dante would want to yell out of frustration because Rocco hid something this huge for so long. But the bigger emotion, fear, pure fear, the kind that crushes your chest, then Rocco would completely fall apart emotionally. He would admit he never meant to hurt anyone. He panicked during the chaos. He pulled the trigger without thinking. And now he cannot escape the guilt. Guys, that right there would destroy Dante emotionally because suddenly this is not just about crime anymore. This is about a terrified kid drowning in regret. But sadly, regret would not matter to Cullum anymore. That is the brutal truth here. No apology would satisfy him. No tears, no explanation. In Cullum's mind, Rocco already crossed a line that cannot be undone. And once somebody reaches that mental state, they become unpredictable in the worst possible way. Then comes what I think could be the biggest twist in this entire storyline. Cullum tricks Rocco into coming alone. Maybe with a fake text message. Maybe pretending somebody needs help. But whatever the setup is, it works. Rocco walks right into an abandoned warehouse without realizing he is stepping into a trap. And guys, this scene could be absolutely suffocating. I can already picture Dante racing there after figuring it out too late. His heart pounding. Desperation everywhere. Then he bursts inside and sees the nightmare standing right in front of him. Cullum with a gun. Rocco trapped. No escape. And what makes the moment even more intense is that Cullum would not just threaten Rocco. He would unload every ounce of blame and rage he has been carrying. He would tell Rocco he destroyed his life, took away everything, left him broken. Meanwhile, Rocco would be crying, apologizing, begging for this to stop. But the terrifying thing is, Cullum may already be too far gone to hear any of it. Then comes the moment that honestly could leave all of us stunned. Cullum pulls the trigger, and Dante throws himself in front of Rocco. That image alone feels devastating. Dante taking the bullet meant for his own son. Rocco screaming while Dante collapses onto the warehouse floor covered in blood. Guys, I genuinely think that could become one of the most heartbreaking Dante scenes we have seen in years. And the craziest part, even Cullum might freeze afterward. Because maybe he never expected Dante to sacrifice himself like that. Maybe for one split second, reality finally crashes into him and he realizes this revenge fantasy has turned into total horror. Then chaos explodes everywhere. Cullum runs. Rocco drops to the floor beside Dante, crying and begging him not to die. Sirens start screaming through the night, and suddenly Port Charles feels like it is spiraling into another massive tragedy. At the hospital, things would only get worse. Doctors could reveal the bullet was dangerously close to Dante's heart, leaving his survival uncertain. Sonny would absolutely lose control with rage. Lulu would be emotionally shattered. And honestly, watching Rocco blame himself afterward might be the cruelest part of this entire story. Because you just know the guilt would destroy him. He would keep replaying every choice in his head. If I never pulled that trigger, if I told Dante sooner, if I never went to meet Cullum alone, that emotional damage could change Rocco permanently. The carefree version of him we once knew may completely disappear after this. And here is the part I cannot stop thinking about, guys. What if Dante surviving is not actually the end of the nightmare? Because if Cullum escapes after all this, then that means the danger is still out there. Still breathing. Still unfinished. And if you ask me, that may be the real cliffhanger General Hospital is building toward right now.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.